a chance to come into the conversation. I know you guys are excited. I know that I am too. Today is Powernomics Thursday here at drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. And this is where we have intelligent conversations about important Black issues. We give you something that's better than what you see in media. And as you know, every week for Powernomics Thursday, I get the distinct pleasure and opportunity to speak with the one and only Dr. Claud Anderson. Dr. Claud Anderson is the author of the books Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, The Black History Reader, and Dirty Little Secrets 1 and 2. His website is powernomics.com. And so without further ado, I'd like to ask my friend, Dr. Claud Anderson, how are you doing today, sir?
Oh, I'm fine, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm doing extremely well, extremely well. I'm very happy to have you, very happy to see you. And you and I, it's funny, every time I talk to you, I always ask you, what's on your mind today. And you were bringing up Popeyes Chicken. You said that there was more to say about Popeyes Chicken, and let me give you some information, some updates on Popeyes. And everybody who's just coming in, please make sure you just hit the thumbs up button, hit the share, hit the subscribe button, so we can have a good conversation today. So Popeyes Chicken, let me tell you this. I know last week, I don't know if I told you last week, Dr. Anderson, but there were estimates by experts that Popeyes Chicken, that they made, I think, $23 million from the free advertising that came from Black folks alone. That Black folks immediately, instantly, without even buying 1 ounce of chicken, actually put $23 million into the pockets of Popeyes Chicken, which is kind of an interesting contradiction when you consider the fact that there's so many people that act like Black folks don't have any wealth, but we're very good at transferring a lot of wealth to other people. But actually, that estimate was wrong. That estimate was an underestimate because actually the real number is not 23 million. The real number is between 65 and 100 million dollars. And that's just from the advertising. That don't even count the chicken sales. That don't count the chicken. And there's been a lot of other interesting incidents that have occurred. Some would call it almost coonery, where you've had I think there was some guys that robbed a Popeyes Chicken at gunpoint, and they didn't demand money. They demanded chicken sandwiches. There are people that have been on the internet singing gospel tunes after eating Popeyes Chicken. There's one guy, I saw this guy, I think his name was Pastor Fred or something, and it was this really obese man. I mean, looked like he was about 30 seconds from a heart attack, and he took a bite of a piece of Popeyes Chicken, and he starts singing a gospel hymn. He's like like Jesus came and delivered him a chicken sandwich. And so I thought that would be interesting to bring up to you because you know the history of all this, you know where all this came from, etc. And you also said you had more to say on it in addition to what you said last week. So what are your thoughts on what I just shared with you, sir?
I think what you just said to me was a long list of a category of people I call Toms, Fools, Sambos, and Coons, okay? That always got somebody out there cooning and trying to get some attention and letting white folks use them. But in terms of the chicken thing and Black folk advertising that, as I said last week with you, that goes back a long way. Let me run back through history a few minutes, okay, with you. Do you mind that? Can you hear me? Okay, you're off. I can't hear you.
I sure can. What I do is I mute myself so that my background noise doesn't distract you. But yeah, when I do that, that means I can hear everything. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. But let's go back a second. Let's go back. I told you last week it started in Africa, but I don't even go back that far. Let's go back, for instance, when Black folk first were introduced to slavery in this country. What most people don't know is, for instance, they were used not only to produce wealth and power for white folk, but also to be able to gain some cultural things from black folk that would enrich white folk. For instance, rice. See, rice came out of Africa, and see, and when blacks got enslaved in this country, certain southern states like Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, and Louisiana, those became major rice producing facilities and opportunities where people talk about cotton picking as being hard. Cotton picking was nothing compared to rice growing, okay? Rice growing, Dr. Watkins, was about 10 times more horrible than picking cotton. Because those people had to stand out in the water all day long, pretty much up a little above their knees, ankles, bend over all day long, sticking in seeds and plantings into swamp water that's filled with water moccasins and alligators all around those coastal areas. Most of them didn't live very long because their backs finally gave out to them. They got whipped and beaten, and they'd spent all day long humped over. You know what it's like when you spend about 18 to 19 hours all day long humped over, standing in muddy water with no boots and anything else. That, and they planted rice. And so rice became very important and was connected to Black folk. So what white folk did after using Black folk for rice growing throughout those southern states, they began to commercialize rice in the country. And guess what they did? They began to commercialize it on the package, what it came out to be, Uncle Ben's rice. So all of a sudden they slapped Uncle Ben's picture and photo on rice, and it's still in the grocery stores. That's been going all the way back for 200 or 300 years. And Uncle Ben's rice is still the favorite product for rice growing, with Uncle Ben's photo. Then later on, we had Black, for instance, that would come in from the slave fields in the evening, and all they got was a little bit of corn cobs or corn meal. They would grind it up and make a little, like a corn patty. And they would take those patties in the evening trying to feed themselves, a little pieces of fatback meat. And they would take that little patty and put it on a hoe, and took that hole on it, put it on a hole, and stick that hole into a fireplace in the cabin, and cook that little whole cake. It would call a whole cake then because of that. And they would eat that whole cake. Then after a little while, in some of the up in the urban areas, those little patties finally emerged over what y'all now call pancakes. Okay. And then they took a Black woman and started putting a Black woman's image on pancakes. That's why you go into the supermarket right now, you go into in that section, the confection section, guess what you're gonna find? Aunt Jemima pancakes, okay? So they use Black folk not only for Uncle Ben, then they transfer it over to Aunt Jemima pancakes. And so everybody likes to buy Aunt Jemima because putting a Black flavor to something and it gave a specialness to it. That same thing transferred over into like soap. They had sunshine soap. I think it's sawdust. Dust Twins soap, one of the most popular soaps all during slavery. Where they had a big box with 2 Black kids on it, and the one was in the tub washing, the other one was coming out white. And it says that if you use this soap, you'll come out just as white as one of the twins. And this is on the box of the soap called Dust Twin soap. Well, let's go a little bit. That make your eyes pop when I say that. Look, I don't want to stall you too much on this. But let's jump out of that. Same thing. They use Black folks again to promote those products. Let's go to Japan. Japan did the same thing. Everybody was doing it, using Black image and Black culture to sell products to enrich themselves off of Black folk under what they call the doctrine of unequal exchange that I mentioned to you last time. Let's go to Japan. In Japan, one of the most popular toothpaste over there. You know what it was? It was a Shine toothpaste, Darky toothpaste. And look up Darky toothpaste, and you have an image there. You got a Black man with a tuxedo on, with a big Black hat on his head. He's about as dark as night with big red lips and big white eyes, called Darky toothpaste, and smile is showing his teeth. They're to clean your teeth, be as clean as Darky toothpaste if you use this toothpaste. Everybody rushed out and bought it. Now let's go down to Mexico. But again, they were using Black folk images and culture to enrich themselves off of Black folk by selling commercial products. You go down to Mexico, one of the most popular brands for morning cereal down there, you know what it was? Cheerios. Cheerios, one of the most popular breakfast foods in Mexico. But guess what? On the box, and what they got on there? They had big labels, big pictures on there, where like a jungle setting with Blacks with bones in their nose and a spear in their hand, circling around a pot. And the pot had a fire underneath the pot, and had 2 or 3 white people in the pot. And the saying underneath was that, and say, would you rather eat Cheerios than to eat us? And so Cheerios became a big thing in Mexico. That was popular. So that's just part of our culture. It's not against Black folks. It's not racist. And that was popular. So what I'm saying, that went on and on. So when you start talking about chicken, the same thing is true. They always want to use Blacks' images to enrich themselves. And so I see, and that's what's going on with Popeyes right now. Popeyes Chicken, again, is taking a Black woman, probably, putting her up in front on the screen and having her talk about my chicken. And so Black folk will rush to it. They'll rush to it and buy it. And they'll buy that chicken under the doctrine of unequal exchange, saying, look what we get. We're getting this chicken. This chicken has a lot of value, very important. We're going to go get some. That's why you talk about these guys that go down there, for instance, and go into a Popeyes Chicken armed with guns and try to break into the store To do what? Not to rob it, but to get some of that chicken that we've been advertised that black folk put a value on. And see, and let me give you another example. They used to do that stuff with me years ago. They tried to trick me into the doctrine of unequal exchange, where they would call me and say, Dr. Anderson, now you know that Lieutenant Governor Lester Maddox, he's got a restaurant in the underground in Atlanta, Georgia. But he won't let any blacks come in there. And we're gonna march around that and force him to let us into their restaurants. And we're gonna make it, and he's the Lieutenant Governor of Florida. And similarly, then that's others say, well, Dr. Anderson, same thing out here in Kansas City. Well, we want you to come out here with us. I said, what are you gonna do? They said, what we're gonna do, every morning, we're gonna march around from 8:30 to 10 o'clock around the restaurant, singing, we shall overcome, and march and demand they let us into the restaurant. In the meantime, like with Lester Brown's thing, Lester Brown would show up with pick handles at 6:30 before the blacks would show up at 7:30 or 8:30. He have baskets of axe handles and pick handles, and he sell white folk with a sign on it. Anybody want to crack nigger skulls? Show up in the morning. I get to give you free axe handle and free pick handles and whip niggas' asses and crack the skulls. And after that, here come these blacks an hour and a half later, showing up at the underground to march around and sing, we shall overcome. He won't let us into their restaurant. And so now in Kansas City, when they asked me to come, I said, hold it a second. I said, hold 1 second. Let's get something straight right now. I said, I don't understand why you civil rights leaders, just like the president today, blacks rushing to Popeyes Chicken, why do you always feel it's necessary that you got to sit out in front of a white restaurant and demonstrate and sing we shall overcome and picket it to demand they let you into their restaurant? They said, well, I said, all you're gonna do is come out and take free ass whippings just to give white folks the pleasure of taking your money and spending the damn food once you get into the restaurant, whether it's in the Lester Maddox restaurant in the underground or out here in Kansas City. They're gonna take your money, whip your ass, and spit in the food. Why do you want to do it? Why would you civil rights leader trick black folk into doing that? They said, well, you can stand in front of their white restaurant in the underground in Kansas City saying, I don't give a damn if you do whip my ass. You can whip my ass, but I'm gonna make you take this damn money. And so that's what you're talking about now with these blacks going down to Popeyes Chicken. If they even have to rob this, break in this door with my guns, we're gonna come in, you're gonna let me have some of that chicken, even if you can call the police or anything else because I got a gun, I'm pulling the gun on you and robbing you to get your chicken. Somehow black folk have been tricked into always taking ass whipping for some kind of a logan or a slogan out front that would enrich whites. And that's called a doctrine of unequal exchange, which means you fight for a value that white folks place on something because they think you got a taste for it or you need it, or you have some kind of a cultural affiliation or association or identification with that product. Whether it's rice, tobacco, same thing. Tobacco, they got blacks running around advertising tobacco, soap, but pancakes, Uncle Ben's rice, Aunt Jemima. And now you got Popeyes Chicken. At some place, you have to ask the question, are your people just that stupid that even from the coast of Africa, when the whites were raising and waving the bright colored cloth and tricking black folk to come down there and get their ass whipped, branded, and enslaved? Why do you do it? Now, I love to blame it on slavery, but no, I can't blame all that on slavery. I can blame it, but maybe God has just sent black folks to the earth to be that damn dumb and stupid on some of this stuff. But I don't think God would do that. So I have to credit it all to social engineering. They've been brainwashed into believing that somehow white ice is colder than blacks or anything that whites want, and they think of value, they put your name to it, even if you got a rap singer, have him stand up and advertise products on the radio, chicken, hamburgers, whatever they want, and Negroes will flock to get it. That's the long and short of it, what I call misdirection and misleading black folk, placing a misinformed person and make him sell products and goods to his own people so they enrich other people.
Wow. Well, everybody who's watching, this is Dr. Claud Anderson. He's the author of the books Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, The Black History Reader, Dirty Little Secrets 1 and 2. His website is powernomics.com. That's powernomics.com. He also has a great YouTube channel. You can find the YouTube channel by going to powernomics.com on the top of the page. You'll see a link to the channel. And I'll also share a direct link for those of you that want to support the channel. Also, please hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button, share and subscribe button. That's really, really important. And don't forget the All Black National Convention happens this month in Houston, September 27th. If you'd like to learn more about that event, the one in Louisville, Kentucky in the next couple of weeks, and also New York City, go to drboyceseminars.com. That's drboyceseminars.com. So let me ask everybody this in the audience. I want to get a yes or no. This is a yes or no question. Did you feel almost ashamed by what Dr. Anderson just described? Like, did you feel almost like a little bit embarrassed, a little bit angry? Or you could either say yes or no, or you could describe which of those words, explains how you feel. In one word, describe how what Dr. Anderson just said, how that made you feel. Did it make you feel? I was mad. I was mad. I was embarrassed. I felt cheated and I felt lied to. I felt deceived, because we grow up educated on the nobility of the civil rights movement. That this is the thing, and the whole time, I don't know if anybody else felt like it was kind of fishy when they telling you that the best way to progress as a black person is to go let a white man beat your ass so you can go give him all your money. I remember even back then saying, I don't think I would have been a part of that movement. I don't think that would have been for me. I probably would have done something else. I remember feeling that way, but everybody tells you the opposite. Everybody tells you the opposite. And I'm going to show you guys some images. Dr. Anderson, I pulled these images up as you were talking about all those different brands and the gold dust powder and everything else. I'm going to pull the imagery up so people can really see just what this looked like, so they can have a visual attached. So that's gold dust washing powder. This is the Black history you don't learn in school. If you can't see this, if you guys can't see it, go to drboycetv.com. I know some of y'all on the African History Network watching. Go to drboycetv.com and you'll see it. But that's the gold dust washing powder right there with the two little black boys in the little bathtub. Here is another gold dust image. I'm gonna try to see if I can make it a little bit bigger so you guys can see the image a little clearer. Give me a second here. Wait, hold on. Sorry guys, sorry about that. Let me pull this back up again. If I can make it come up. Give me 1 second, Dr. Anderson. Hold on.
You go right ahead. I'm impressed with the fact you can pull up all those images. I got them all in my mind. I can give you a whole bunch of it all the way back for 60 years, but I love to see them. Pull them up. Let's see them.
Okay. Well, here's another gold dust advertisement from way back in the day right there. Let your gold dust. I don't know what that means exactly, but that sounds a little strange. And then let me see. Then I had another one. Hold on. Let me pull it. Let me see if I can pull them up. They should come up one after the other, but let me see here. Let me see if I can try this again and make this work this time. Here we go. All right, and here is another one. So this is the gold dust image. This is another gold dust twins image. The Wright brothers for cleaning. This is, I guess, after airplanes were invented, but probably the early 20th century right here. This is Darky toothpaste. You talked about.
You found my Darky toothpaste. Okay, go on. That's what I'm telling you about.
Yeah. There you go. I hope I don't get in trouble from YouTube for hate speech, because they want you to hide this history. They don't want Black people to know what our people have gone through. Here's another. Here's some Aunt Jemima images. How Aunt Jemima has changed over the years. She's still Black. And then last image, she looks a lot like the Popeyes Chicken lady. So it's almost like they took that same tradition and just kind of just changed it every generation, but it's still kind of the same thing. So now compare this, y'all. I want y'all to look at this. Look at the Aunt Jemima lady on the bottom right-hand side, and then compare that to the Popeyes Chicken lady. I mean, it's the same lady, right? Same down home, Southern lady that's and a lot of people really thought that she was the CEO for a long time of the company. And I mentioned that. I said, ain't it funny that they for years told y'all that this Black lady was the CEO, and really it was a white person, there was a white lady behind the scenes that was really running the company. Why would they do that? Why would they put a Black lady out there and make her look like the CEO? So I had people say to me, and if you can't see the image, by the way, you can go to drboycetv.com. We're showing it on YouTube. I can't put it on two screens at once. But I had a lot of people that came back, Dr. Anderson. They said, no, that's not true. That lady's a spokesperson. That's a spokesperson. Everybody knows she was a spokesperson. I said, really? You really think they presented her as a spokesperson? I said, at what point in that commercial did she say, well, this isn't really, I'm just a spokesperson. This is their chicken. She didn't say that. She said, my chicken, my recipe. When I make my chicken in the morning, this is how I do, this is how I do my chicken, right? So when somebody say me and my and and I and all this other stuff, that's possessive. That's her saying, I own this. This is mine. You know,
Right.
so you're right. So I think that what you just said is good because it kind of helps people connect the dots to understand that a lot of what we're seeing right now is not much different from what we saw in the past. You know, and so what are your thoughts on that, Dr. Anderson?
I mean, can you pick up Cheerios out of Mexico?
I looked for that. I could not find the Mexican Cheerios. I looked everywhere for that one. Are you sure it was Cheerios?
Yeah, it's Cheerios.
Okay. Yeah, I have not seen. I can't find the Cheerios, and they must have scraped that off the internet or something because that's not one that I can't find that one. I found like stuff like the cream of wheat image. You know, you have the black man. Anybody else see the cream of wheat? The black man from the cream of wheat commercials. You know, so it's real funny. I always wondered about that. Like, why do they always use black people's faces to sell, you know, food like that? Pancakes, cream of wheat, all of this. It just didn't make sense to me.
So that's a game they're running on you to attract you. I told you, just like they attract you. They attract you down to the beach by offering you some bright colored cloth. You run out and buy it. Or they attract you to New York, to what's called the garment district in New York. It's pretty much been taken over now used to be controlled by Jews, much by now. I think the Arabs have taken it over. And all the thing they manufacture is special clothes for black folk. Did you know that?
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah, no, that light, bright colored clothing and shoes that you would, I don't think you wear those kind of suits though, with shoes and clothes and stuff like that. Like this gold chain, all this stuff all around neck. They manufacture stuff specifically and solely for black folk. And black folk rush and buy it. And then I told you that they go for anything that's bright colored. I told you they go for size, and they figure that the bigger something is. I told you that last week. The bigger something is, they place more value on it. They value bright colors more than they do dark colors. That's why most of them, a lot of blacks that are dark complexion, they won't wear dark clothes. They want to wear bright colors. And to get to the to the size, they don't want anything small inside. They want something big. They want to be big. The bigger something is, they figure the more value it is. That's why I told you up until way after the civil rights movement, black folk would never buy a small car. They would never go buy a Volkswagen or a small sports car. They want to buy a Cadillac, a Lincoln, or I can't remember half the big cars we used to have. They don't have them. They want the biggest car as big as close to a bus as you can get, and they hopefully get it as a convertible. And they wanted, and guess what color they wanted the convertible? Red, pink. They want. So I'm telling you. And see, the last thing they wanted was that, and they go for that stuff. And whites know that. Whites study black folk. They study their connection between objects and how they place value on things. And that's how they trick you under the doctrine of unequal exchange. They sell you something they worth a quarter. They go down there, you go down and buy something, go to the cheapest stores and or any store if you're real poor and you have no choice. But if you got a few dollars more than you're supposed to have, you want to go down to the most expensive store and buy what's called name brand products. And so you can boast with your friends, shoot, I got some jeans. My jeans cost $200 a pair. And I don't wear no cheap jeans, child. I don't even buy cheap liquor. I want the most expensive liquor. And I want to get some of that scotch that costs $50 a bottle. They do all these things. The whites know that. So the marketing people use black folks' attraction to things that I said, for brightness, for size, and for color and name branding, to get money off of black folk. And that's what they're doing with Popeyes Chicken. They got black folk rushing and trying to, with guns, run into a store and with guns and threatening to shoot through the door if you don't let me come in there and get some of those sandwiches to eat. Nobody's going to be that damn dumb. And if you are that dumb, you need to go into business and start manufacturing bumper stickers. And when you bump or name badges. And so you go around to all your friends, you either give them a bumper sticker or you give them a name badge on the back. It says, I is stuck on stupid, okay? And then you put it on the car because they use our people like that. And there's a small percentage of our people that go for it every time, like a dog to a bone.
Everybody, I'm talking to Dr. Claud Anderson. He's the author of the books Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, The Black History Reader, Dirty Little Secrets 1 and 2. His website is powernomics.com. He has a great library pack If you want your children educated on Black history, don't let them go learn for some random white man who's going to teach them a bunch of stuff that they want them to know. Have them learn from Black people who actually care about you. And Dr. Anderson does that. He's dedicated his life to it. His book was actually referred to by leading magazines as the second Bible for Black people. So it's such an important book that I keep the book right next to me every single day. Also, please hit the thumbs up button, hit the share, subscribe button. And also, I want everybody to know, if you want to be a patron and a supporter of Dr. Boyce TV in intelligent Black media, we'd love to have you join our coalition of intelligent Black people. Feel free to go to intelligentblackpeople.com. That's intelligentblackpeople.com. So, Dr. Anderson, as you were talking, I went and hunted down some more images that fit what you were talking about. You know, you talk about Black people that want shiny objects, that want luxury brands, and this is interesting because I say it again.
Yeah, see, watch their watch, the jewelry and all that stuff, and watch what they buy. I got one friend I would invite me out to his house. He built a house next door to Bob Hope out in Palm Beach. What's it called? California. What's that called? Can't think of the name of it out there. I went out to see him. He had an 18-bedroom house, and just for him and his wife next door to Bob Hope out there. And what's it called? Palm Springs? What's that place? Huh?
Could be. They all the same to me. I don't know the difference.
Yeah. And he had 3 damn swimming pools in the house, 18 rooms, bedrooms, and then 35 parking spots in his damn garage, just for him. And said he's next door to Bob Hope. And I said that whole thing about bigness. He wanted bigness. That's signified. I said just for him and his wife to live in. He had a son that didn't even live with him anymore. So I'm saying that's the stuff you're talking about. Somehow, I wrote my books to try to tell people about people. Don't export your money out of your own community by letting people trick you into buying their products, and you haul it out. You spend 98 cents out of every $1 you have. You put 98 cents into the white community or other people in your own people's hands. You try to live off of 2%. It cannot be done, and 2% it cannot support you. And yet we get out of $1.3 trillion that Black folk have annually as disposable annual income passes through their hands, which makes them, Dr. Watson, about the 11th or 12th richest nation on earth. They spend all that money outside their own community by being tricked through the doctrine of unequal exchange. I'm gonna go out to the suburb, get me one of them big houses in the suburbs. I'm gonna get me some shoes. Normal shoes for my foot would be I wear a 10 or 10 and a half, but I'm gonna go get a pair of shoes called Johnny Bulls. You know what Johnny Bulls were? Johnny Bulls were shoes, but they were about 5 inches longer than a normal foot would be for Black men to wear. So they call them Johnny Bulls, and then another one called I can't think another one had for the toes, with a turn up at the toes in the front of them. Then they started making these special shoes for Black people called platform shoes, where the damn shoes were about 7 to 8 inches high on the heels. So Black folk walking on platforms and that long. But see, Black folk in a hurry sometimes to be everything that they white folk want them to be. That's to be a caricature, you know, to be a ridiculous, or as one guy called himself, a ludicrous, to be ludicrous. That's why he named himself Ludicrous. Okay. Now go back and show me that guy. Look at that picture you just had. Let's look and see what he got on. Look at those guys you just put up there.
Okay, let me share my screen again here. Here we go. You talking about this guy?
You should show. Now, looking at a watch with his now, if that's real, you think that's a lot of money on his hand? Why would he need a watch that damn big that I can see from across the street?
Well, you know, it is kind of funny when you talk about it. When you talk about Black people giving away 98% of our wealth. I'm gonna throw this radical idea out there, Dr. Anderson. You know, I think that rather than just going after reparations, you know, from white folks in terms of getting them to write a check or whatever it is that they're gonna do, because they're gonna write a measly check. It won't be really what we're truly owed. I believe we're owed between 10 and 15 trillion dollars. I don't think they can afford to pay that. I just don't think they can. The debt they owe Black people is as big as the national debt, in my opinion. You know, and so, but you know, instead of going after that check from white folks, I think that just simply redirecting our Black dollars is the solution for Black people getting their reparations. Because then you're not just talking about a one-time payment, you're talking about recurring monthly annual income, right? So, as you said, if we're giving away 98% of that 1.3 trillion, let's say that out of 1.3 trillion that we receive, we're giving 1.25 trillion of that to white folks. We're paying them. We're giving reparations to them, even though they don't deserve it, but we're paying them. Let's say that we kept just 10% of that 1.25 trillion. That's $125 billion extra coming into Black neighborhoods, building Black wealth. That's recurring every year, not a one-time payment. You could create thousands of Black millionaires off of that, a few Black billionaires. You could employ thousands of Black people. So I think that just by stepping up our willingness to build businesses and to create jobs in our own community, I think that we can redirect, we offer some of those services that white folks offer and get people conscious about buying Black. Then that money, instead of those Black dollars turning into white dollars, those Black dollars stay Black dollars. And then what also happens is you get the multiplier effect, right? So if that Black dollar is spent with Black businesses who also buy Black, then maybe instead of the dollar only circulating once in the community, it's circulating 3 or 4 times. So that means every $1 becomes $4. So 1.25 trillion, it becomes a half a trillion, 1.25, sorry, scratch that, I said it wrong. 125 billion becomes half $1 trillion, right? 125 times 4, right? So basically, I think that should be our master plan, in addition to, waiting on white people to sign legislation. What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Anderson? Just so you know, by the way, while you're talking, I'm gonna share some pictures. Don't get alarmed. I'm gonna share some pictures while you're talking. So the screen change. I want people to see in the images of some of these rappers and what they wear and how we're giving trillions of dollars away every year to white folks to buy their stuff. Because it's important because the Louis Vuitton founder, rappers love Louis Vuitton. The Louis Vuitton founder recently announced that he's now worth over $100 billion. And you can't tell me that he didn't get at least a third of that money from Black folks. So Dr. Anderson, while you're talking, I'm gonna just share some images. So feel free to share what you're thinking about, saving the Black dollar and how that should play an important part in our reparations plan.
Thank you. Well, I've been saying that for 60 years. That's the biggest and best recourse we got, is to be able to empower ourselves rather than empowering every group. Black people right now have enriched every religious group, every cultural group, every ethnic group, and anybody on this earth is being enriched by Black folk displacing their own capital into other people's hands. As a matter of fact, you have to ask the question, why do Black folk insist on playing a role where they become comfortable and enslaving themselves by giving everything away and then crying and screaming about being poor and downtrodden? And I remember people asked me once down in Texas, Dr. Watkins, they said, Dr. Anderson, we're just concerned. You're always going around talking about how we need to make our money bounce in our own communities and blah, 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 blah. But we still can't say, if we did that, why is it that white folks still got all these big, wealthy, rich mansions out in the suburbs? We go out there and they got these good homes. Where did they get all that money from? I say it's easy. They got 2 incomes. They get their money. They got their own money because they boycott your businesses. No whites get up and go down and spend 98% of their money into Black communities and give it to Black hands. So they got 100% of their money, which they keep in their own hands, and they got 98% of yours. So that means a typical white business now has an ethnic group or religious group. They live off of 2 incomes. They live off 100% of their money and 98% of Black folk, because all these groups in America, all the Asian groups, Arab groups, Hispanic groups, anybody, even from Eskimos, they all boycott your communities. Nobody gets in their car and drives down to a Black neighborhood and go into a Black community and go into a Black store and buy some product that Black folks produce and give them their money. They don't do that. They boycott you. You would never, never, ever see on a Saturday morning other groups running down to a Black neighborhood or Black community and buying something from Black folk. They boycott you. But every time Black folk get paid on a regular basis, Dr. Watkins, as soon as they get a paycheck, they're gonna run with all haste to get to somebody else's store in their communities and give them their money. And therefore they take credit. Well, I buy stuff. I don't buy anything no Black community. Shoot, I'm not gonna make another Black man rich. shoot, I'm gonna go out and make this white man rich because he's the one that got rich off me doing slavery and Jim Crow segregation. And I've got addicted to that because Dr. Anderson told us a long time ago that there are two kind of people in the world. There are screwers and screwees, and white folk are the screwers, and we're the screwees, and they've been screwing us for so long. We got a love affair going now. We enjoy being screwed. So he come to our community, and they come to our community. They say, we're gonna do y'all a favor. We're gonna put a Burger King's or a McDonald's in your restaurant, in your city, in your neighborhood, and so that we're gonna send in all the products, so you can buy those products you can pull in any drive-in, a Taco Bell, McDonald's, a Burger King, and leave your money there. And then in the evening, we're coming in, collect it, and go back to our neighborhoods and leave you bone dry. So therefore, every night in every Black neighborhood in America, every Black neighborhood, Dr. Watkins, and the Black community goes bankrupt every night about 7 o'clock. They go bankrupt because when white folk and other groups close up their stores at night in a Black neighborhood, clean out the cash register, and drive back to their own neighborhood, guess what happened to Black America? Black America goes bankrupt every night. They're bankrupt from 7 at night to about 7 the next morning. Now, anybody who goes bankrupt to every 24 hours, I would never take them serious, and nobody else takes them serious. They say you got to be stuck on stupid to keep letting people trick you through a doctrine of unequal exchange and put some Black face up, and you bring us their money. You bring us $25 to $65 million in a matter of months by selling chicken. Yeah, I got to get some chicken restaurant, and I'll risk shooting you. I'll shoot you over this and break in. I don't mind if you hit me in the head with a brick. Guess what? That's the same thing they were saying during the civil rights movement. When they said, when Malcolm X said, we don't care if any blood runs in the street, let it be ours, because we're passive, we're nonviolent, and we don't mind taking the ass whippings. And I told them in the civil rights movement, I don't join those movements. I said, you run out and hit me in the head with a brick. If I don't have a pistol, you're gonna get shot. If I got a knife, you're gonna get cut. Because homie don't play that. Homie don't play that. Okay.
All right. Everybody repeat that in the chat. Homie don't play that. Everybody say homie. Everybody remember homie the clown? Homie don't play that. Please hit the thumbs up button. I'm speaking with Dr. Claud Anderson, the author of the books Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, The Black History Reader, and Dirty Little Secrets 1 and 2. His website is powernomics.com. That's powernomics.com. That's also where you can find the link to his YouTube channel, which you should certainly follow. He does commentary on there at least once a week. Also, if you are not aware of the All Black National Convention, we're going to have that in Houston. It's going to be September 27th. Also be in Louisville at the Diverse Entrepreneurship Summit, and then also in New York, October 27th. We're holding a big wealth building summit for everybody that wants to understand investing. It's going to be on the east side of Manhattan. So if you want to go to any of those events and want to learn more, go to drboyceseminars.com. That's drboyceseminars.com. If you're watching on the African History Network, I want to let you guys know I'm going to have to shut this feed down over here. So if you want to follow the conversation, go to drboycetv.com on YouTube. Go to the YouTube channel, drboycetv.com, and you can follow there, and then you can see both Dr. Anderson and I. So I'm going to have to shut this off, guys. I want to let you guys know how much I love you and how much I appreciate you, as well as Michael Imhotep. The African History Network, Dr. Anderson, is a Facebook page that has over 1 million people on it. And what I figured out is that we can have Black media by utilizing those big platforms that have hundreds of thousands or millions of Black folks. And that becomes like our version of CBS, our version of CNN, our version of Fox News, ABC News, etc. So the African History Network is an important partner in terms of what we're trying to get done. I want to ask you a question, Dr. Anderson. You talked about the civil rights movement, and you're talking about it in a way that's different from what we learned in school, right? A lot of us grew up, I don't know, anybody tell me yes or no if you grew up like this, where the civil rights movement was almost worshipped and idolized and honored as if that was the best, that was progress for Black people, that's the best thing that ever could have happened to us. Anybody get taught that in school? You're given a different narrative. You're given a different narrative on the civil rights movement. And what that made me, and I thought about you the other day, because I was in the car, I was driving back. I had just actually proposed to my fiance. I don't know if I told you that. Did I tell you about that?
Yeah, you told me you were going to get into that, right?
Yeah. I just proposed. I was feeling good. So we were driving back from.
Congratulations, then.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm going to bring it to the house one day. I'd love for you and your wife to meet him. And so we were listening to a Malcolm X speech in the car. And the speech was the one about the house Negro and the field Negro. And I had listened to it before, but I every time I listened to it, I just learned something new every time. And there was a part where Malcolm X seemed to make the argument that a lot of the civil rights movement, that they were bought out by the white liberals. That basically, when black folks really started acting like they had some sense and really, standing up for themselves, they gathered these leaders together. And he used, names like Martin Luther King, A. Philip Randolph, and others. And almost like they gathered them together and said, we will fund your movement. We'll give you all the money that you need. We will put you on TV, and we will present you to the Negro masses as legitimate leadership, even though some of these movements were movements they had nothing to do with. Can you kind of speak to that from your perspective? Because you were right there in the middle of it and you're a historian. Can you give people your truth on what was going on there, and maybe comment on what Malcolm said a little bit?
Well, Malcolm was pretty well on target in about 98% of what he ever said. And yes, they did do that. As a matter of fact, even the Million Man, not the Million Man March, but the 1963 March on Washington with Martin Luther King. See, whites orchestrated that to a significant degree, where they tried, they said, we can't have this, allow him to bring all these different black people from across the nation into Washington, D.C. That'd be a terrible situation. We can have a major race riot, blah, blah, blah. We'd be setting up we have major difficulties. And what they came up with out of the White House that time under the Kennedy orchestration, said what we need to do, we need to quiet and tone down the blackness movement in America. And what we're going to do is that we will permit them to come to Washington, D.C. and hold that big rally here in Washington, D.C. where Martin Luther King is going to speak. And y'all going to make it called the Martin Luther King's March on Washington. And I Got a Dream speech was that what we have to do, we have to bring in, we have to filter that by bringing in other groups to water it down and to conflate it with everything in the country. And so the White House orchestrated that. They went out, they sent people out to bring in to universities, have white young kids come in, so the white kids join the movement. They also set out they invited, they made sure that all the white women's movements, issues, institutions, organizations around the country came to participate in the march. They also made sure that a lot of unions participated. They told the unions they can get certain kind of compensation and support by making sure they participated. So when he brought in the unions, the school, young white kids out of colleges, brought in them, and the women into it, and whites into it in general, at that point, they castrated the black movement. The black movement was no longer a black movement, it became a civil rights movement. And what they did at that point, they began to corrupt the whole concept of civil rights. Civil rights came into existence, as you know, as I told you before, in the 1860s. Civil rights came out of the response to the Dred Scott decision of 1857, which says when the Supreme Court says a black man has no rights that a white man is bound to respect. And so in the 1860s, in the middle of it, when the Civil War was ending, the few liberal Republicans, white Republicans, says, we got to do something to reverse the Dred Scott decision of 1857. Let's pass some laws that says black folk do have some rights, that they do have rights, because the civil rights, the 1857 Dred Scott decision said black men have no rights. They didn't say gays, midgets, humpbacks, women, abused people, Arabs, immigrants, anybody, Mexicans, Hispanics. It says blacks. And they passed the first civil rights law in 1865, approved it in the legislature, saying that we have to do something for black folk. They said in the civil rights movement, they must have civil rights because Dred Scott decisions say they have no rights. You know why they didn't have any rights? Because they were not citizens. They were property. Blacks were property. And they were property all the way up to the end of the Civil War. They had no rights. That's why they couldn't get to 14 acres and a mule. Property cannot own property. So they said, we must now pass a civil rights law to compensate black folk and give some of the things that they have been denied for 360 years. So the civil rights law of 1865 was enacted, saying that there's only two things that black folk can be in America. They're either gonna be free or they're gonna be slaves. But to be free in America, black folks must minimally, Dr. Watkins, have 40 acres, a mule, and $100, period. And they must have that to no longer be enslaved, manipulated, and exploited, and misused, abused, and subordinated by the white society. And that was enacted in the first civil rights law of 1865. Again, when Johnson took over after the assassination of Lincoln, he became the president of the United States, and that was Andrew Johnson. He says, as a Southerner from Tennessee, he said, I ain't giving those black folk a damn thing. He says in that law of 1865, I'm vetoing it. He vetoed it. So next year in 1866, the same few liberal Republicans came back again and enacted the 1866 Civil Rights Law and said the same thing, that black folk are the people, only people in this country. Never in 360 years has any white folk been denied their rights in the courts. They didn't need no civil rights laws because you know why? Because the first Constitution, which made up of 12 amendments, 1 through 12, they gave white folk, immigrants, Arabs, Asian, all the rights they needed. They gave women all the rights they needed. They gave humpbacks and midgets all the rights they needed. And the first Constitution, which was enacted in 1789, there are two constitutions. That became an affirmative action for white folk. And that, so they had all their rights. So when the Constitution 1866 was enacted, that was strictly and solely for black folk, to give them those things they've been denied, rights and privileges, and ability to own property, and not be property, but to own property, to be able to get compensated for their work and labor. But that happened in 1866, and they passed what's called a Freedmen Bureau that had the responsibility of giving some things to black folk, resources, land, and black folk picked up a few piece of land on what the islands off the coast where the tornadoes going, hurricanes going through right now. They gave those islands off the coast of Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Amelia Island, Hilton Island, Simon Island, Johns Island. They gave all those islands to black folk. But by 1867, 1868, white folks went to the Supreme Court and started pushing back. And because they passed about 8 civil rights laws for black folk. Passed eight civil rights laws for black folk to give black folks some rights and privileges and some resources. And by 1870 something, the white conservatives in here got helped by the United States Supreme Court. There was a guardian of racism and say, hey, no more, let's go back and root all those things we've done for black folk as being unconstitutional. So all the laws that were passed from 1865 to 1875 for black folk were all wiped out, classified as unconstitutional. And the only reason they didn't get the civil rights law was because in 1867, that those few liberals went back and made it a law and put it into the Constitution, where others just impacted laws. So they couldn't kill the 14th Amendment. So the civil rights law of 1866 became the 14th Amendment. That's why they couldn't kill it off then. They killed off every other thing. And then they took and said, what we'll do with the rest of these laws for black folk, we'll corrupt them and redirect them to everybody. And we give a pretense that everybody is included, then black folk can't claim any exceptionality and demand to have any special treatment. If we move it and pretend that the civil rights laws for everybody, that the 14th Amendment was for everybody, that neutralizes black, even though everybody had all their, even though the whites had their, and all the other groups had 2 constitutions. 1789 gave them all everything. The second constitution in 1860 was strictly and solely for black folk. And right now, the entire country, all the lawyers, all the legislators, and all the judges in the country are now reacting to the corruption and the redirection of resources away from black folk from the civil rights. And our civil rights leaders never knew that. They couldn't see that far down the road. They were good people and smart people in 1960s in the black civil rights movement, but they just couldn't see far enough down the road, see how whites are going to outsmart them, redirect them, and retract, just like they did in the 1870s, retract all those things from black folk and lead them exactly where they were at the end of slavery. That's where you still are.
Everybody, I want to ask you guys a quick question. Give me a yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. Do you believe that the civil rights movement was good for black folks, good for black empowerment? Yes or no? Do you feel that the civil rights movement empowered black people or not? Yes or no? I'd like to get you guys a response to that. And while you respond to that question, I'd like to let you all know who I'm speaking with. I'm speaking with Dr. Claud Anderson. He's the author of the books Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, A Black History Reader, and Dirty Little Secrets 1 and 2. He is, in my opinion, one of the leading authorities that you should have for your children when it comes to teaching them black history, real black history, not the watered down stuff you learn in school. You should never learn history from your oppressor. That's a danger zone. You shouldn't do that. He has a library pack for $99 and includes all 5 books plus a DVD. You should include that as part of your library at your house. One of the things that we believe in the Black Business School, our Black we believe Black people should educate our own children, create our own jobs, and support Black business. So focusing on core number 1 is that educating your own children. That's your responsibility. If your child graduates high school and can't read, I'm not going to look at that teacher. I'm going to be looking at you. All right. So make sure that you are educating your own children. Very important. Also, don't forget speaking of education, if you want other tools for your kids, you can go to financialworkbooks.com. We created a whole series of financial workbooks that can allow you to teach your children college level financial literacy, even if they're only 7 or 8 years old. So feel free to go take a look at the workbooks and flashcards at financialworkbooks.com. That's financialworkbooks.com. All right. So Dr. Anderson, let me ask you this question. Now, first of all, I'm just going to mention this to you, that I'm looking at whether or not people answer yes or no as to whether or not the civil rights movement benefited Black people or not, or empowered us. I see a couple of yeses, but I see a lot of no's. Tanya says not at all. Jason says nope. Jose says no. Harper said hell no. Amanda says no. Geechee lady says yes and no. Okay, that's an interesting point. But it looks like there's a lot of no's. It looks like people are kind of understanding, not so much that the people who did the civil rights movement intended to harm the community, but it seems like they got a rope-a-dope, like they got tricked a little bit, and it seems like some of that is due to what you were talking about, social engineering in terms of shaping what Black people think. Because think about it, who's educating us, who's giving us our media. It's not other Black people, it's other people who are not Black. And this leads to a point you made to me earlier, when we were talking about slavery and reparations, and you brought up that article, I think it's right behind your head in the Washington Post, where they were talking about how slavery is taught in school or how it's not taught in school. That it seems like the reparations debate and conversation is harder to have because so many people, white and Black and otherwise, are not even taught the real history of slavery. Can you kind of speak to that in terms of what bothered you about that article and why you felt like it needed to be addressed?
Right. Well, thank you very much again. And I'll be glad to speak to that because, I've devoted most of my life to doing something that I always thought needed to be done. And that's why I wanted to be a forensic historian, because I needed somebody who would go back, leave their comfort zone, and begin to pick events and issues that pertain to Black folk and look at them from a critical standpoint. First, to identify those issues and events and concerns. Then 2, move it over there and analyze it, critically analyze it, determine the origin, the significance, and the purpose of it. Then thirdly, move to another level and say, now here's some solutions to counter the negative impact it would have on Black folk. So in other words, identify, analyze, and strategize solutions to impede it. And I worked hard all of my life to do that. And that's why I feel some comfort right now that in the recent, I guess in about the last year or 2, all of a sudden, everybody's talking about slavery and reparations in the country. But what I want Black folk to know is that that's no accident. White folk have never wanted to bring those issues up. And I gladly take a lot of credit for spending and devoting 50 years of my life to raising these issues in 5 books, and to do it by creating a Black think tank that will focus on these issues, put out hundreds and hundreds of thousands of newsletters explaining these issues to Black folk, giving thousands of speeches in this country, around the world about Black folk. So where they are now in terms of the Blackness, the focus on slavery, the focus on reparation, is not by accident. I take a lot of credit for having brought that back almost by myself by dragging it across the road. Now, to that end, this paper behind me here, let me pull that down. This was an expose in the Washington Post yesterday, along with all the movies and everything else that's going on right now. You got a lot of whites now for the first time began to write something about Black slavery and slavery and racism. But that's unique because up until about 1948, no whites in the country would write books about Black folk. No company would publish anything about Black folk up until 1948. When they started, because they weren't interested in Black folk. And so, but now we got some whites that are beginning to write some books about Blackness. We got a lot of articles coming out weekly about slavery and reparations. But that is because of people like myself and a few other people been pushing that for it, like you, been raising Cain to say and move this thing. And so now the Post came out, this whole big episode. It must be at least I would say at least 5 or 6 double-sided pages in here, full length, about slavery and everything, about issues pertaining to Black folk and issues, and the front cover of it is here. Let me put that up to you. And that's out of the Washington Post yesterday. And on the back side here, it's got images. And what it's saying here is that teaching slavery. Look at the front of it. What's the headlines on it? Can you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I sure can.
Say teaching slavery. And what it's saying here is that going through this thing, they said, to be perfectly honest, nobody has ever taught the real impact of slavery. And that's what I've been saying. Nobody's ever taught the roots of it, except in my books. I put the roots of slavery. And more importantly, I did what I always wanted people to do, and I've not seen anybody do it other than those books. And that is a right to what was the purpose of slavery? What was the purpose of slavery? The purpose of slavery had very little to do with personalities. With Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Martin Luther King, those are personalities. But what was the roots and what was the purpose of slavery? The purpose of slavery has never been addressed. Civil rights didn't address it because I said that became corrupt. The purpose of slavery was a very simple thing. It was to systematically, conscientiously, completely, and totally to maldistribute almost 100%, here it goes, of all this nation's land, minerals, businesses, wealth, income, opportunities, rights, privileges, and controls of all levels of government to the hands of the dominant white society. That was the purpose of slavery. Never been addressed, never been discussed. Now what this article is saying is what I've been telling them. All of a sudden you got people writing about it. They write about personalities, about a single person. I'm gonna give you a story about 5 years a slave or about the imprisonment of Black folk. Those are simple things. Nobody's done any conscientious thing. That's what this thing is about. And what I'm saying is that right now, this is gonna go awry if Black folk, like your listeners, don't get off their rear ends and start telling every school system, whether it's in the charter school system, public school system, or the segregated academies or religious schools, that if you want to be able to understand the real impact, the significance, and the origin of slavery and the negative impact on Black folk and the solutions for it, you got to get that library pack, get those 5 books, and get them and start reading them immediately, and demand that they be put in every school and in every home. They should have those books, that book pack in those schools and understanding it, because they've already started. They're gonna go pick up single books that might talk about one person here or there, talk about a personality. They're gonna talk about, well, let's talk about Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey has some good ideas. Let's talk about W.B. Du Bois. He has some good ideas. Let's talk about Carter G. Woodson. He has some good ideas. Let's talk about Elijah Muhammad. He has some good ideas. But the only one, the composite of all these things they put together are only in all these issues pertaining to Black folk, come to one point, is in those power pack books that I got now. You get all 5 of those books for $99 that'll carry you through all these things, explain everything to you, tell you the history and origin of them, analyze it, and give you solutions. And if Black folk now, the time is running out on them. That's what this big comprehensive paper in the Washington Post is telling you. You don't do it now, you're getting ready to get wiped out, and they're going to conflate it and going to make it, try to equalize your conditions by redefining terms and equalizing minorities, poor people, Indians, everybody with Black folk to justify doing nothing for Black folk. That's what you're coming to. And that's what I'm saying. Tell them, get out there and go to powernomics.com and order those 5 packs immediately and start reading them. And 2, go to the powernomics.com and go over to the push the button where it says YouTube. And I'll be on that regularly, picking up where I leave off with you every week to give them very specific kind of information in addition to what they hear on your show. The only 2 I identify with on TV is Boyce, Watkins, and Dr. Anderson's YouTube channel, because I have a great deal of respect for you, and I'll always try to support you in all regards. But because I love my people, and I'm very disappointed they still out there standing in line waiting for Popeyes Chicken.
All right. Well, everybody, I hope you guys heard that. I hope you will also consider what Dr. Anderson brought up. Now, his website is powernomics.com. That's where his books are and everything else. And let me just give you guys a point of comparison. I've recently looked up the average cost of a trip to the movies. for a family of four is $60 to $100. That is about that price. That's about the price range. When you all went to see the Black Panther, when Disney, which is a white company that does not put any significant amount of money into the Black community to solve these problems, doesn't care about you, to be honest with you. They study you so they can sell you a movie ticket, but they don't care about you. You guys spent about $100 each for your family to go to the movies, and if you went to dinner afterward, then the price could easily went over $100. So I'm not telling you not to go to the movies. What I'm saying is, think about that when you're thinking about what somebody like Dr. Anderson can give you. The reason that you're here, the reason that you're listening to this conversation is because this man's giving you something that you don't get anywhere else. You didn't get it in public school. You went to school 12 years, they never taught you this. Some of y'all went to college 4 years, they never taught you this. Some of y'all went to HBCUs for 8 years, they didn't teach you this. This is the kind of stuff that you cannot get in other places. And so what I'm trying to get you to do is to consider this basic idea that in order to overcome the limitations of the education and economic systems and media and all that, you must circumvent that, right? You must build better systems to get what you and your family need. So what I'm telling you to do right now, just consider this idea. If you don't like it, then don't do it. But this is the thought. If you want a school, build the school in your house. You live in the age of the internet. You can get access to all kinds of information. Who says that white man at that public school has to be your primary teacher? That don't even make no damn sense. That's just stupid, right? You should be your primary teacher for your kids. And I think it should start with, I want you guys to buy Dr. Anderson's books before you buy mine. I've got books up, drboycebooks.com. That's where you can go take a look at my books. But before you go buy my books, I want you to buy his, because if you go through Powernomics and Black Labor, White Wealth, you will find that these books have exhaustive and extensive references that he put together very carefully, in a very scholarly way. And he documents all kinds of things that really help you connect the dots on America and what you're dealing with in this country. And also what will also happen, and where I can then help you, is when you're coming in here, I can say, okay, now that we understand what we're dealing with, here's how you win the football game, right? Here's how we win the game, right? We study the defense, and then here's how we're going to run the offense, right? Because right now we don't know the defense, so we running the offense. Our offense is stuck on stupid. We wondering why the score of the game is 185-12. Well, because we're putting the ball in the wrong end zone. We passing it to the other team's the players. So I'm just telling you guys, let's play a different game. Let's play the game of Powernomics. So everybody in the chat, just type the word Powernomics. Just type the word Powernomics. And I want you to go ahead and consider. I don't tell anybody what to do. Y'all know I don't do that. But I hope that you'll consider making Powernomics just one of the most important principles in your household. It doesn't just get practiced on an aggregate level. It also gets practiced on a micro level. So Dr. Anderson and I, we kind of work together a little bit like maybe the way Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal were able to win championships, or Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan. One player did one thing, another player did the other. So what he teaches in Powernomics is big picture stuff. He teaches you how to, really sort of see the economic landscape and how it works. He also gives you the details and all the receipts on history and how history links to the life you live in today. What I do is I say, okay, here's a way you can educate yourself specifically so that when you're playing Powernomics, you are, in addition to playing it on a big level, you're playing it on a small level. Because the first thing you got to do before you control your community is you got to control your life. Before you can control the rest of the world, you got to control your damn family, your own household. A lot of us out here ain't even got control of our household. We don't even know what's going on with our kids, what they're consuming educationally. Our children, our families are being splattered everywhere, going out begging a white man for a job. And Dr. Anderson said it himself that it is criminal to send your child out to somebody who hates them to go beg for a job every day. It is criminal to do that. And I understood that, Dr. Anderson. I'm gonna let you get the last word, but I remember I went through that experience where my daughter was on a job where she was being racially abused and being mistreated, but she was young. She didn't understand. She didn't understand that this happens to everybody, right? And then we were talking about it, and I remember thinking, where it really clicked that this strategy works is that I remember just talking to her, and if I was just a guy, let's say I worked in a factory or something, and all I knew was getting a job myself, I wouldn't be able to do anything for her. All I'd be able to say is, well, you know, baby, that's what they do, and here's how you play the game. Here's what, just don't talk, just don't do nothing, don't make them mad, just don't, you know, like teach them how to survive in the middle of dysfunction. Instead, I remember I just flat out said, I'm gonna make an executive decision. I want you to quit your job and come work for me, right? And that was it. You know, like if your child's being abused, if you have a family business or a family wealth structure in place, you can pull your child out of that abuse. You can pull yourself out of that abuse. And it is doable. There's millions of people doing it, but you got to learn to play a different game, and you got to let go of about 80-90% of everything you learn. Dr. Anderson, can you speak to that last piece of that? I know in your book, Powernomics, which people can get, by the way, at powernomics.com, you talk about, I remember hearing you say that it was criminal. I like those words, that it was criminal to send your child to go work for somebody who hates them every day. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, I was really saying that it's I consider to be criminally, and for our politicians to be intellectually incompetent for you to send your people to go to the people who have intentionally and planned and strategized how to keep them ignorant and impose ignorance on them for 360 years. That's why during slavery, every colony had a law that says it would cost you it cost you $100 and 39 lashes with a whip in the public to be caught teaching a Black person to read or write. Did you hear what I said? Those were public laws during colonial times, that anyone caught teaching a Black person how to read and write would be, it cost them $100 and 39 lashes with a whip in a public arena. And that's why white folk carefully avoided that judicially. And the few Blacks that did learn how to read and write, they keep it as a hidden thing, because they did not want whites to know that they could read and write, because the whites felt that would be some kind of intimidation, that they could find out secrets, that a house Black could read a map, and he could learn how to add, and then therefore Blacks could compete with them. And even after slavery ended, they only set up 2 or 3 special schools in the entire United States that would teach Blacks how to be competent and to compete with Black folk. Schools that were set up in 1868 for Black folk, they would only teach Black folk manual skills, how to work with their hands. The one biggest exception where you could teach a Black person to have skills that could be competitive with whites was Howard University. It wasn't a university, but it was Howard School, okay? Where the offspring of white congressmen who had Black mistresses or Black babies could then send those kids to Howard University. Howard University was a school for the elites that can get by. And Howard University was the only school that was authorized to have a law school and a medical school. No other Black would even think about having a law school or medical school. And therefore they couldn't get the education. But ironically, Howard University, which is right down the street from me, has never once, to the present time, in all the 60 years, ever invited me to the campus to speak about any issue about books on the campus or in their bookstores. That shows you the difference. That's the disconnect between the so-called Black elite and the Blacks that don't know anything because they don't get the proper learning. Now listen to this, and see, we'll put this in front of you. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, at the top, guess what it says there? That these are, say, writing the history books. Throughout the 20th century, schools' textbooks often glossed over slavery or tried to spin as positive what had happened to Black folk who were enslaved. That somehow they benefited from slavery. And in these books, they point out books put out by whites, by the University of Alabama and Virginia, a history of Texas. All these books are put out by whites that makes Black folk feel that somehow they profited by being enslaved. They benefited from it, and that white folks didn't benefit, that Black folk benefited by being enslaved. And I tell white folk every day, if slavery was so enlightening and such a joy and a pleasure and so beneficial to the victim, I want whites right now in the next year to pass a law saying that in this country, for the next 360 years, Black people are going to be the slave holders and all these whites are going to be slaves. And I said, I want to be about 200 or 300 of them that work for me with no pay. And boy, and to watch how quickly Black folk can become enriched and wealthy by other people's labor. And so, but they don't. Well, Dr. Anderson, that's radical racist for you to say that. No, it's common sense. If you say it worked for you, and you said as Blacks benefited from slavery, why don't y'all try to get some of that free benefits too coming out of it? And so I want to conclude with that. But that's why I'm saying So what it's saying here is that we got to have history books. At the bottom, so you got to have history books that teach Black folk what they need to know, because white books are not going to do it. White people are basically homicidal and not suicidal. They're not going to write books to show you how to be competitive with them. If I were white right now, I wouldn't do it either. What's the incentive? What's the reward for me teaching Black folk how to compete with us economically in the society? So therefore, in conclusion today, before I get off your program, I'm gonna say this to you. You tell all your listeners that right now I'm working on 2 major projects, Dr. Watkins, that if they come to fruition, and I'm working on them pretty intently right now, they come to fruition hopefully in the next 6 months, or hopefully by the end of the year. If these things come to fruition and I've completed what I need to do with them, that for the first time in the history of this nation, all 46 million Black folk in this country will benefit from these two projects I'm putting in place. All 46 million Black folk in this country and Blacks around the world will benefit. Okay, and I can't tell them what it is now, but I'll let them know before the end of the year if I don't make it. But if I do make it between now and then, I'm gonna announce it on your show and on my Powernomics, Powernomics YouTube channel, and tell them tell them to stay fixed on yours and mine and watch for Mel's announcement. This comes out, every one of them will be able to participate. Every one of them going to get benefits from what I got. 2 projects coming up. They're going to get benefits. It'll be the first time in the history of the nation and the world these kind of things are going to happen for Black folk. And you're going to be involved in all this. So you tell them to stay attached, hit my YouTube channel off of powernomics.com and go there and stay in contact with Dr. Watkins. It's coming. And I'm working hard on it, but I'm an old man, tired, and I can't work as fast as I used to. And I tell them in the meantime, but for these things to work, they got to get those books and start reading those books. And what I'm gonna do between now and next week, because whenever you make those pronouncements, they always respond to you. I'm gonna see from now, today is Thursday, between now and next Thursday, I'm gonna see how many orders they get. I'm gonna call the Powernomics Corporation and say, I want you to get so many orders from these Black folk between now and next week that you'll be unable to fill them. You run out of books over there. Because Black folk are not stuck on stupid. They're not all lined up at Popeyes. They're gonna read these books and say, damn, we now find out why we should be selling those bumper stickers saying, I stuck on stupid to put on back of my car.
All right. Well, everybody, the website, if you want to take a look at the books, is powernomics.com. That's powernomics.com. Also, Dr. Claud Anderson has a YouTube channel, so feel free to go and find the YouTube channel. It's all actually, if you go to powernomics.com, on the upper right-hand corner, there's a link to the YouTube channel. And also just a reminder to everybody, please hit the thumbs up button, share and subscribe before we go. And last but not least, don't forget All Black National Convention, Houston, September 27th, allblacknationalconvention.com. That's the website. Get your hotel room locked in now. If you want a discount hotel room, just tell them you're with us. You'll get it. That discount ends in about 2 days. So you might want to go ahead and make your move now and book your ticket. If you want to know about the events in Louisville on the 14th and also New York on October 27th, go to drboyceseminars.com. That's drboyceseminars.com. And also, if you want to learn, some of you asking about those flashcards and workbooks, that's financialworkbooks.com. That's financialworkbooks.com. Stuff for your children to teach them well. So thank you very much, Dr. Anderson. I appreciate it, my friend. It was wonderful talking to you today.
Thank you. I hope you got something out of that today now.
Yeah, I got a lot today. Everybody, please give Dr. Anderson a digital round of applause and a big thank you for giving us his time. This is stuff that you're not going to learn in school anywhere, and I think it's a damn shame Howard University doesn't have the courage to invite you in. But don't worry about it. We in the same club. I had an event scheduled that was supposed to happen at Howard back when Farrakhan did the I think it was the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March. And we announced that we were going to be there, and Howard had agreed. Somebody at Howard had agreed to let us use the space. But I don't think that I guess they don't pay attention to what's happening in the real world. They only pay attention to like mainstream world, but they didn't know how many people were going to come. They thought it would be like, 10, 15 people in a room, and hundreds of people showed up. Farrakhan's sons came out, all these people. But I just announced, hey, I'm going to be there. We're going to do this free event. Everybody come out. So there's hundreds of people outside, and they're all trying to get into the building where they were going to host it. Now, mind you, the building's empty. They had the whole, I guess, a whole Coliseum type area or sports arena area that they could open. They had the something that was like a movie theater or something that was open. They could have let them all in, but you know what they did?
What did they do?
They got so nervous because so many people showed up that they put a sign up on the door that said the event has been canceled. And I did not find out until I got there. So all these people had come in from all over the country for this event, and they just shut it all down. And it really just, and that was one of my experiences with Howard. I had some other experiences that really made me sad, that, you know, you have this institution. I want to fight for the institution, but when you acting stupid and backward and you don't even want to embrace one of the most important Black minds in this country, I'm not including myself in this, but I'm talking about yourself. You know, how can you teach Black people and not even bring up powernomics? You're bringing up George Washington. You're not bringing up powernomics. You're bringing up Abraham Lincoln, but you ain't talking about powernomics. You're bringing up Hillary Clinton, but you ain't talking about powernomics. You're not a friend of Black people if you keeping Black people backward and stupid and begging white folks for jobs. And I think anybody who's affiliated with Howard University should email them, send them a copy of this video, and let them know it's a damn disgrace. You cannot allow your commitment to white oppression to stop you from embracing the most progressive Black voices in this country that are coming up with real solutions. Like, seriously, I mean, when you're dumping $50,000, $100,000 worth of student loan debt on these Black people, Black wealth is going backward because they can't repay their student loans. And people that come up with solutions, you don't want to talk to those people. That's a damn shame. I don't even care if I ever get invited to Howard. I talk to 1 million people a week on the internet, but I think that, you know, that somebody up in that institution, Howard, Morehouse, all the Black institutions, if you don't adjust, let me just say this publicly, real clear. This is real clear. I got receipts on this. If you don't adjust, you will die. If you don't adjust your business model, you will die. If you don't clean up your administrative processes, you will die. We're all reading about the stories and the scandals. If you don't adapt, you will die. Mark my words. Half these HBCUs, in 15 years, they're going to be extinct because they do not have a business model other than going to beg Donald Trump's administration to pay their bills. And when they don't show up, they have nothing to lean on. So you need some real solutions. You need some real leadership. And that's all I got to say about that. So thank you, Dr. Anderson.
Thank you, and I'll see you next week now.
Yes, sir. Thank you for letting me get that out. I feel like that's important to share.
That was very important. And I told you that I appreciate that in the HBUCs. Right now, 67% of them now are staffed by non-Blacks. Most people don't know that. That is because they fell under the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement, they were told that they must move towards social integration. They can no longer sit there and pretend to be institutions strictly solely for Black folk. They must integrate their curriculum. They cannot bring anything that's too racial based into a Black college, period, in university. So now Black historical college been reduced to nothing but miniature or small white colleges. That's where you are. And the bookstores in there are controlled by white selection committees and white-owned bookstores on those college campuses. So right now I have very little respect for Black colleges in general because I haven't been over education for the state of Florida for 8 years. I know what's in all of them and how they operate. They're scared, they're frightened, they want to just get by just sneaking past and we're gonna be miniature white colleges. That's all. They've forgotten their original role, which was to go out and to try to do things that elevate Black people, period. They bought into social integration and civil rights, and now they're useless and they're irrelevant, just like most of our churches have been, and they're gonna get wiped off the face of the earth.
That's right. I agree with you. Thank you very much, Dr. Anderson.
Thank you, buddy.
Always a pleasure talking to you. And I'll see you next week, my friend.
All right, thank you, buddy.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you. You guys have a good day. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.